This is the Knilly and PB podcast. In this weekly series, we're reading Twilight because Knilly's never read it and PB wants to send memes. I'm Knilly.
I'm PB.
And we're here to talk about chapters 22 to the end, which is 22, 23, and an epilogue, which is, I think, a very important part of this. I don't know why it's an epilogue, to be quite honest. I think it should have been chapter 24, but maybe it's because it's a big fast forward, but c'est la vie. So yeah. Last we left our hero. She got a very threatening phone call from James. And apparently he has her mom hostage, as we are actually led to believe, but we're gonna get into that. Actually, it's actually right now, because I don't really have, it wasn't like a lot. I guess the biggest part of this was that her trying to figure out how she can trick the vampires to be able to leave, even though she knows, like, Alice might figure it out.
I wonder if Stephanie Meyer had been in this exact terminal before, like if she's been at this airport, because that's such a very specific thing. I would have, when she said the door, I assumed it was just like some emergency door that like you can only go through one way. Or like some door that Bella thought she could like sneak through to get like off the turnpike or whatever. Like, I don't know what I thought this door was that Bella was thinking of going through to shake the vampires was. I was not expecting it to be a door on the other side of the bathroom.
Yeah, like a cut through.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever been in a bathroom that had two doors like that. So it was not my very first thought. And so, and to be completely honest with you, when I was reading this, again, I read this all in one sitting when I was a kid. I was speed reading through this because I wanted to get to the exciting spot. So this was one of those places that I was like, okay, yeah, blah, 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 running, blah, 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 watching, blah, 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 blah. So a lot of this was very new information to me. I was like, oh, they sat there and they talked about New York, Chicago, et cetera, talking about the places they could go. Oh, I do want to say it was very sad to read. What did she say? I could hear them discussing the pros and cons of New York, Atlanta, Chicago, places I'd never seen and would never see. I was like, damn.
She already was like writing her own obituary, like, dang, girl. I mean, like, she knew that was gonna happen. Like, that's what she believed was gonna happen. By doing this, because she really like cared for her mom or like figure out a way to like get out of there. But
yeah, because classic Bella, worried about literally everyone but herself. She was like, even at death's door, as we'll see in a little bit, she was just like, oh, I'm happy now because I know that everyone is going to be fine. It's just going to be me that's going to be sacrificed. And I'm just like, Bella, please.
Please.
But aside from that, I'm glad to see a little bit more Jasper Alice. Because they are a couple.
Yes.
And I'm happy to see that while Alice is there for Jasper, Jasper is also there for Alice.
Yeah.
In her moments of trouble, being troubled.
Yeah, having like the extra visions and stuff like that.
Yeah, because Jasper, when Bella came back into the room, Alice was looking
rough.
And Jasper immediately walked in and was like, Alice.
Yeah.
I was like, aw. What did you see? Are you okay? And immediately, like, Jasper did not even for a second hesitate to just calm the room.
Yeah.
He was just like, why is there so much chaos in this room?
Yeah. The vibe is not chill.
Yeah, the vibe is not chill. Vibes are rancid right now. We're just gonna bring it.
We're here. We're gonna come here.
Yeah. What I am shocked about is how easily Stephanie kind of just let it slide. Bella running away. I feel like there could be a whole other chapter of Bella just trying to get out because it's just the fact that they would let Bella go with only one other person to the bathroom or like to eat.
Yeah.
When we all know that Alice saw Bella dead. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very it's curious. It is very curious that Stephanie just kind of let that slide.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun to see Bella just run through the airport and jump into a random shuttle and was like, "This is shuttle to Hyatt." She's like, "Yeah, that's where I'm going." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Do I care enough? No, I
No.
don't get paid enough."
I don't get paid enough. This is a free shuttle. It's not like I'm not in taxi. Man, also
And then
luckiest taxi driver, you know? Here's
I
$100
know.
bucks.
I know, same energy with that cab driver. He was just like, "Oh, but that's all the way in Shuttleport." And she's like, "Here's money." And he's like, "Okay."
All right, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm here to do. Take your money.
One last thing. I didn't say it last time. I
Sure.
had it written in my notes. I just never talked about it. The fact that this this ballet center or ballet studio is on Cactus Road or Street is quite literally the funniest thing to me. It is so ridiculous because there's such a huge meme with Bella and her damn cactus that she gets sent in from Phoenix with right at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
She has a little cactus, and then we see it in the movies also, and also in the parody movie, which is really good. If you've never seen the Twilight parody movie, definitely go watch that. It's such a meme. So the fact that this ballet studio is on Cactus, it really took me out of the moment of just like tensity, and it's like, and now I'm on Cactus.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, you're on Cactus, pronoun, capitalized.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, the street, right? That's where this stupid thing is.
Yeah. Like, of all of like the desert city and street names that you could come up with, you couldn't even just pick like a random like weird last name, right? Like, it's not like, oh, the ballet studio's on McKinsey, you know? Like, all right, cool. Like,
Nope, it's on Cactus. Also, I didn't have time to look it up. Eucalyptus trees. Those are like bad, right? Those are like bad for us. That's the one that koalas eat. That are also poisonous to
yes.
koalas, but koalas still eat it because tiny brain
I don't
and
know
chlamydia.
if it's not poisonous to us because we use it as like essential oils. The trees, maybe you might be thinking of ginkgo, because I just got a TikTok served about ginkgo trees. Because ginkgo trees, they're the ones that like city, like they're beautiful. They have beautiful leaves, right? And the thing is, the city planners only plant male trees because they don't bear the fruit, because the fruit stinks. It utterly stinks. However, this is I'm literally regurgitating what I learned on TikTok. Thank you. Oh my God, it's the plant girl, something Nicole. I think she's awesome. She's the one that happy snacking, don't die. Her, like, I love her. But
right, yeah.
She's talking. I'm gonna put the link to the TikTok in the description. But she said she conveyed this ginkgo information because ginkgo trees are incredibly queer, because what they do is, for no reason that we don't really know, they'll change gender. They'll just become male and be like, F you, I'm making fruit now and shit's gonna stink. But also the outside coating has very similar properties of poison ivy, so it'll make you itchy. So what you have to do is like squeeze like the nut out, and then she goes on to like make a really delicious like popped nuts or fried nuts of the ginkgo tree, because it's good after you cook it. Like, you destroy all of like that stuff.
Yeah.
They're poisonous to eat but have medicinal effects. Yeah. So
Turns out eucalyptus leaves are not safe for humans to eat. Although eucalyptus tea contains a safe amount of eucalyptus oil, according to WebMD. And so it's just like, I read that. Yeah, apparently if you swallow a eucalyptus leaf, you may suffer symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and coma upon ingestion.
Coma? Just you're freaking knocked out. Jeez. They're also not native to that part of North America.
No, which was the other thing that was very weird to me. I read it and I was just like, first of all, aren't eucalyptus like bad for us humans? And apparently to everyone, it's bad for everyone. They're not good.
Okay. So I don't
But
know
we're
how much
humans.
credit we want to give Steph Meyer, but is that like parallelism?
Oh,
Because like vampire's not good for, but like it's a nice tree and it looks pretty. We like it for certain things, but it's
like she
poisonous.
played it in the shade.
Yep.
Yep. Maybe.
Bella doesn't understand her dangerous things. Granted, eucalyptus is not dangerous unless you ingest it, but yeah, she like played near. I don't know. Is that giving Stephanie Myers too much credit? I feel like it's very specific that maybe we can give her a little credit.
We can, because like Stephanie Meyer really does just put some very random details in her book that stand for absolutely nothing. But I think we could give this one to her. Look, this is my chapter 22 is probably my favorite chapter of the entire book.
It was a very good chapter.
So I am gonna give it to her because it's in chapter 22.
You know what? I'm gonna give it to her because like if I had to write a school essay about parallelism and symbolism in books and I had to be about Twilight, I would rip this out and use it.
100% you would. Yes.
So like, that's why it's valid.
Yes. Because it's like, 100%. The entire, and you know what? In the entire like Eucalyptus tree section, which is 100% just a random sentence thrown out there of just like, I look back at the house and think of the tree that I used to play under in the shade, and Renee would just be standing there looking at me or whatever, and then moved on. But it was sandwiched by really sad lines. Really, the entire like lead up to going into the ballet studio was very sad. I was like, oh, I mean, I guess it should be sad. It's her funeral walk, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, wow, we went on a real good tangent about trees. But you know what? We got something out of it. We found some literary treasure right there.
There. This one's for you, Stephanie Meyer.
Yeah, the symbolic parallelism of eucalyptus trees and vampires. Write a 500-word essay on that. You're welcome, kids.
Oh my god.
So now that we've taken a right on Cactus, we finally made it to the ballet studio.
And right before Cactus, she also talked about how more fiercely than I would have dreamed I was capable of, I wish for the green protective forest of Forks of home. And I think it's very important that we point that line out because we have spent the entire book talking about how Bella hates Forks.
Yep.
Unironically, she hates Forks, and now she's calling it home.
Yep.
It's not so much character growth, more than just a character moment.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how much she grows from there. We'll see. So she moves on to Miss Fork. And by the way, she describes herself as running like the worst. Like she's stumbling. She's probably ugly crying. It's like, well, she's probably not ugly crying actually, but she's stumbling. She scraped her knees or whatever. She's like in a dress, I think, too.
I don't even remember, man. But she was rough out here.
Yes, it was just a mess out in the Arizona heat. Gets into the ballet studio, and a home video is playing that has some of the words from the phone call. It actually took me a second to realize. It took me like a half second after reading Bella's line that when she realized, I realized. I was like, oh shit, yo, that's real clever. For like VHSs, if they're just out and about and you just replay old landlines, they didn't have like high fidelity audio. You couldn't know. The cell phone that they were using is like cell phones were in their early stages. You still didn't get nice crisp HD audio, gang. So like replaying the exact word, you still don't. Replaying the exact words that Bella needs to hear to like lure her in. Hella smart. Love it. +1 for James.
I know. It was, first of all, such a great moment. When I read it, I was also just blown away. I was like, oh my god, that's so smart and so evil. But I'm glad Renee is okay.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about it last week, I was like, I don't remember what you said. Oh, that they were gonna find Renee inside the dance studio. I was like, absolutely. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Not
I'm just
Renee, as it turns out.
I know. The entire time I was just like, I need to be very careful about every word I say from here on out
Yep.
because I do not want to spoil anything in the climax of this book.
Yep. Spoilers? No, I'm just kidding. If you're following along with us, you already know this is not a spoiler-free zone, but it ends up being Bella. But before we get to that point, James has like a whole villain monologue conversation with her. Bella is oddly comfortable having a chat with this guy that's about to murder her. I have here that I've quoted, I guess I can see the draw in observing you. This is him talking to Bella. It's amazing. Some of you seem to have no sense of your own self-interest at all. I'm like, Bella is the freaking prime example. Picture next to the dictionary definition of no self-interest. You read her like a book, my guy.
Honestly, he read them
all
like a book. All of them like a book, which honestly is great because that is, that's his thing. He is a hunter. He is smarter than anyone should give him credit for. I do want to say before that, Bella described him as so average looking. Nothing remarkable about his face or body at all. Just white skin and circled eyes. And I think that's so hilarious because Bella is basically calling him ugly because vampires are supposed to be ethereally good looking. So you are attracted to them. It's their
it's a lure.
Predator. Yeah, it's their lure. And so by her calling him average looking, nothing remarkable, when every other vampire she has spoken about, yeah, like even at the end, there's a moment where she's like, Rosalie look fucking gorgeous.
Beautiful, yeah.
I thought it was really funny that Bella just absolutely demolished James like that. James definitely destroyed her later in many ways, but I was like, that's a good Bella moment, even if it was just in her mind.
Yeah. We find out a little bit about Alice in his villain monologue because he reveals that he has gone on a similar hunt before, trying to get some other vampire was also enamored with a human girl. And however, unlike Edward, this guy was like, he did the right thing and turned her into a vampire, so made her unappealing to me. We find out, and then he ended up murdering that vampire just for, he's like, oh, I'm mad at you for doing that. You ruined the hunt, the great, beautiful hunt or whatever, because he's obsessed with hunting. We find out that girl is Alice.
Yeah.
And, by the way, he's recording this whole thing.
Yeah, I have.
Uh-oh, PV, you cut out a little bit.
I have video camera in my notes. I'm just like, how many kids know that one nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. It would have been a phone. It would have been a phone.
It would be a phone. Exactly. But do they know? Is the emoji confusing to them?
I mean, I had to also read that one again. I'm like, red light on a thing. Oh, there's a freaking camera on a tripod.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I had to have that realization again because I know it. My dad used to do little home videos, but it's been so long,
Yeah. So I've talked about before how most of the vampire stories or most of everybody else's story is much more interesting than our protagonist stories. Specifically bringing up Alice, I did not remember or realize that we actually talk about Alice's backstory in this one. And I actually had to take a second. The moment I read Asylum, because I've also brought it up before. There is a canon. It is a fully canon short film, which is called the Twilight Saga Stories, and there's a few of them out there. And this one is called the Twilight Saga Stories, the Mary Alice Brandon File, and it is Alice's backstory. Alice as we know her now. It is everything she does not remember, and it shows you. It's not for the faint of heart. If you are not, if you read this and you read, the whole asylum thing, and even, something that even James was like, poor little thing.
Yeah.
If someone if someone like James has a little ounce of empathy for a human like that,
Yeah.
you can imagine the life that Alice led prior to this. Um, but it does go over everything that he talked about here, including her escape and everything. So if that's something that is of any interest of you, make sure to go check it out. It's called The Twilight Saga Stories, The Mary Alice Brandon File. But I did have to take a second when I read that because I didn't know it was coming, to be honest with you, because it was on 2 pages. So I was just like, I couldn't read ahead to see what was happening. But it's just intensely sad. But also, yeah, that James did once hunt Alice, but then she became a newborn or a new vampire, and he kind of laid off. He was like, when at that point there was no point in doing so,
Yeah.
which is interesting. And instead he killed the old one in vengeance.
Mm-hmm. I think for all intents and purposes, like the only reason. So before I actually get into this ends with like Bella getting beaten the f up. Like she shatters the mirror, like gets shattered and pushed into the mirror. It's shattered. She does try to run at one point. I think I actually had the quote. I couldn't help myself. I tried to run. As useless as I knew it would be, as weak as my knees already were, panic took over and I bolted for the emergency door. And I think my note was, wow, for the first time in your life when it's actually futile, you try it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Just like a little note. But she gets beat up here. And I think for all like James as the hunter and his tracking, I think if it wasn't for the timing of like, because it was pure luck and timing that Edward and Co. arrived, right? Like, if they did not show up, she'd be dead, and he won. Like he won because he got her hurt, and like got Edward there. So the only reason he lost is like luck and timing.
Yeah. It's
I
like,
mean,
well,
I guess he wants to get Edward and then like actually mess up Edward instead, but like at the same time, it's like at that point.
yeah. Well, because as Stephanie has pointed out so many times prior to this, something that Bella just refuses to really get into that little noggin is that vampires A are dangerous, but B, because they're long lived, especially James, they are not human, you know?
Yeah.
They don't have the same regard for humans as we do, as a human would. Because they are an apex predator at this point. In fact, humans are their prey. It is like befriending a cow or a goat, that you have every intention that you could. Like, they could be your pet. They could be someone that you just hang out with. Or they could be something that you eventually slaughter and consume for your own, benefit. And you care about the thing or you don't, like most people don't interact with their food in such an intimate way, like Edward has, and as James has pointed out, many other vampires have.
Mm-hmm.
So um for James, it is just a cruelty, like it's just a cruelty, but he doesn't really regard it as like Bella's anything other than just like a prized cow, like she is nothing more than like prized livestock at this point for him. And not to give like James any humanity, but like in the way of just like how it will affect Edward.
Yeah.
That it is that is what he is doing. He's like, oh, here, let me like break your favorite toy. Now come after me. That was like his plan the entire time. But because we're reading this from Bella's perspective, we're reading it from the prize toy perspective. I'm just like, well, obviously we care about you, but truly you are the weakest denominator in this entire storyline. Literally everyone around you. In fact, it is just like that animal that that pet that keeps putting themselves in danger on purpose. It's like your cat constantly going up a tree, but never coming down. So you always have to go up and get it, lest they hurt themselves. That is Bella. Bella is the cat that constantly is throwing themselves up the tree. So um I don't remember what you originally said, but that was what I thought. That
No,
was
like essentially
my
that like
first thought.
James like James's plan was executed clearly. Like sure he had a little bit of like hiccups along the way, but he he lived his hot he was a very good hunter and he got what he did what he needed to do and wanted to do. He just died because it was 4 against 1 essentially at the end of
Yeah,
that.
it was, and that's another part that I was just like, Stephanie Meyer, I feel like you dropped the ball a little bit on this one, because James's plan was to then trap Edward
Yeah, like
somehow, some way.
like why is he going to like eat her now? Like when he could like mess up Edward and then eat like more villainous thing to do be like turn her or eat her in front of him, right? Like that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. But I guess at a certain because I think there was a little note of where like he like pushes like she started bleeding and then it's like oh never mind I can't draw this out anymore I'm a have a snack.
yeah, well, because he was doing the video so he could leave it for
Oh yeah,
Edward.
yeah,
And then he also even mentioned that we have to cut this short so I can leave this message, and then
right,
call Edward after this. But like he knew that Edward was coming to
yeah,
Phoenix.
yeah,
Um and James knew that Alice had some premonition
yeah.
abilities. Like, and he honestly might have known that Edward had some sort
Mind
of
reading.
mind reading, due to some, conversations, or some sentences he said to
Hmm.
Bella. So it's just like, what was your plan after this? If
Yeah.
you knew that did it just get you off to be so close at the moment? Because I guess technically Edward's plane got there 10 minutes early
Yeah.
or 20 minutes
That's
early,
true.
but but like then you don't know when Bella's gonna get there, you know?
Hmm.
Like James had no timeline for Bella. He just said, get away from the vampires and come here. That was his message to her essentially. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, what was your plan after this? Like at this point, you've set yourself up for failure to have this all go down in the city in a location that you are fairly certain everyone knows where it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the vibe is here, fam.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. Yeah.
Also, for them not to just set up some sort of trap at the ballet center,
Yeah.
was also I think another huge like missed opportunity for the Colons. I think there were a lot of misplays here.
Hmm.
With it all costing it all just costing Bella, and
Yep.
no one this was not inconsequential to
Yep.
everyone except Edward's psyche and Bella's entire being.
Yep. Which we open chapter 23 with her seeing an angel, which we quickly realize, oh, it's Edward speaking to her through her regaining consciousness through all the pain and bleeding and broken ribs and cracks in her skull. Everyone is there technically, but the two guys had to step out because it's a little too much for them. A little too much because there's so much of her blood everywhere.
Yeah, because she got a cut on her head on her scalp, I think
Yeah.
was described, and that's the quickest place to start bleeding. You bleed
Yeah.
so much, 'cause so
Yeah.
much of your blood is going up to your head. So also, it's very funny because Bella it does have issues with blood.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember the words for it, but she does get
Yeah.
queasy at the sight of blood. And
Yeah, she's
there's a
just got like a
moment
broken
where
leg.
yeah, there was also a moment where she described starting to get dizzy and like out of it, and I'm like, I wonder if this is because of the blood or if this is from the situation you're in.
Mm,
I'm sure it's a little bit of A, a little bit of B, but I wonder if it's more of a blood mention rather than a
yeah.
than what's happening to you moment.
Yeah. We find out that she was bitten by James, but it's apparently very early in that Carlisle is like, yo, I gotta actually work on her human wounds. So Edward, you don't gotta, or try your best, but if you want to save her, you gotta suck out the vampire venom. And this, I was like, Edward, why don't you just do it? And I'm like, oh wait, he wants to drink her blood. This is a bad idea for him because he could be incredibly tempted to just drink all of it. That's why I was like, why don't you do it, bro? It's like a freaking snake bite. I'm like, oh wait, never mind. You've been wanting that, but you cannot have that, and now you have to have the cursed version.
I love two things about the moment. A, that I just like how Carlisle just was straight up just like, I mean, do it or don't do it, bro. It's like up to you.
Yeah.
And Alice was also just like, Edward, you have to do it. I just adore that everyone's just like, hey, Edward, we're putting the responsibility on you because we don't need you to blame us.
Yeah.
If something happens to Bella. This is completely up to your choice. Because I am like to imagine that everyone in the family is just like, turn Bella, just make her a vampire. That would make our entire life so much easier if you just did that. And Edward's like, no, her soul. She needs to be human and experience human things.
Yeah.
Which is just a very Edward thing.
Yeah, at the end of 24 and the epilogue. So
well, prepare for the rest of the series. And so it is a very, and that was very funny to me. And also, I forget what the other thing that I found was funny, but I just, in that moment, I was just like, this is fun.
Yeah,
this is obviously awful, but this is very funny.
A little fun thing. I think it was actually really funny. It's like, yeah, I started tasting the morphine that like Carlisle had injected so that she wouldn't feel pain or whatever.
Oh yeah, Carlisle was just like, yeah, IDK if it's gonna work, but like you might as well try.
Yeah, because like she also has like, aside from that really big problem that we find out that the sensation's like burning, like her hand is burning and it's like starting to go through her system. Like that's what we find out how the turning thing feels. But Carlisle's like, yeah, if she can get through this, I don't know if she can get through the rest of this, so I gotta work on the rest of this.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're gonna be sucking out a lot of blood, so I just have to make sure that she doesn't lose more of it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, damn, Carlisle. Absolute savage.
Yep. But that chapter was really short. It was literally just like her seeing her angel and then all of this, and they kind of joke about it a little bit, like, how did I taste and all that stuff. And I'm like, this is weird. Take it out of context, this could get weird.
It was very funny. A lot of describing Bella's blood. I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's a vampire book. But
yeah.
like even James is just like, yeah, I've always been sad that I wasn't able to taste Alice. She smelled so good. And then it's like, no offense to you. You smell all right. Flowery.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's such a weird thing to say, but I have to assume like a vampire conversation.
Yeah.
Like just a normal thing to say. It's like, oh yeah, this person smells like this.
With this vintage 1980 human. It's freaking like wine. Aged for 80 years. From California. I'm sorry. I made a wine joke.
California. 20 years.
Oh my god.
But that was so... it is... First of all, I was like, in my notes, I was like, be more subtle, Stephanie, about this whole Edward allusion to being an angel. I'm just like, come on, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Be more subtle than that when it comes to
we got a real banger Eucalyptus tree angel analogy, kind of on the nose.
Kind of real on the nose. And also one of my favorite tropes in writing is after like when it's been like a huge lead up to like this big fight or this big moment where the protagonist is going to get hurt, or a character is going to get hurt. I love the trope when they wake up and they're just like, well, I can't be dead because it hurts too much.
Yeah.
It's such a good trope. I love it. And when it happened here with Bella, I loved it too. I was just like, that's very funny. Yep. Thank you for this, Stephanie Meyer.
Yep. And she ends up blacking out again because there's just pain everywhere, just pain and all things. But we wake up in chapter 24 into a hospital.
Yeah.
And she's quite like she's just like stereotypical person in the hospital, got a cast, all these IVs, kind of maybe propped up. The boyfriend's in the chair looking like this. I just want to say throughout this whole chapter, that heart rate monitor gimmick, very cute. It's very funny. So when Edward finds out that he can't read her thoughts, but this heart rate monitor is like, oh, I can get an edge now. So he really like presses that to advantage, and he toys with her, which is very funny. So like he gets in close, and then the heart rate monitor starts going off, especially right when like a nurse comes in asking if she needs more painkillers after Edward had just said something like really embarrassing to her. She's like, are you anxious? Like, no. Lying.
I thought it was so funny that Bella was so she understood immediately what the play was here with Edward.
Yeah.
Because her line was something like,
I'm so embarrassed,
like,
I think.
Yeah, it's like, oh no. It's like, not only can Edward now know, always knows when when my heart has palpitations, but now so will everyone else because of this heart monitor. I was like, that's really funny. That's such a teenager thing too. It's just like,
everyone's gonna know. I don't want to be embarrassed.
It's like, oh, Edward.
Yep.
One of my favorite things about the Twilight series is how they set up an entire situation of how Bella got hurt.
Yeah.
This entire scenario that went down. Yep. And I have been informed that in Midnight Sun, it's actually like we discuss the entire planning and go into detail as to what happens here, what exactly Alice does, and a lot of other stuff actually happens here.
Oh, wow.
That we don't talk about, but in Midnight Sun we do. What Edward is doing in Carlisle and everything. We learn a lot. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah. So the story is she fell down a lot of stairs and got yeeted out a window. That's to describe the glass lacerations.
Yep.
And then we also later find out from her mom, which I want to come back to, that the ballet center was set on fire and like some car was stolen and put in front of the like ballet plays just to get rid of any kind of trace of evidence.
Yeah. It's like, Alice had a lot of fun setting up this scenario. So much so that Edward was like, you could probably sue the hotel if you wanted to. It's that good.
Yeah. Oh my God. So good.
I was like, damn, I can't wait to read about it. But, along those lines, in that same, I think, paragraph, Bella asks him, so how did you stop? Sucking my blood out. And he was like, it was impossible to stop. Impossible. But I did.
And
then with a half smile, I must love you. And I'm like, that's cheesy AF.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'll give it to you. I'll give that one to you, Edward. I just want you to know that one that has game. That line game.
That has game. Though speaking of these I love you lines, a lot throughout this chapter and a lot in the epilogue, they pull the I love you, I know lines.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh my God. So I would see these memes, right? Because I know it from Star Wars. I know it as the Han Solo Leia line, right? And obviously that's where, because it came first. So Stephanie Myers is a fan, right? I totally get the memes now of seeing that quote, which in my head is a Star Wars quote, but then seeing Edward on the like a Valentine's Day, a digital Valentine's Day card or whatever, it's so funny. And then seeing the Star Wars heads get so mad about it. And I'm like, aha, I see it now. This is hilarious. I love this.
I wrote it down almost every time also because that's such a red flag for me. If someone says I love you and the other person does not say I love you too.
No, yeah.
I'm just like, that's a red flag. Immediately that other person does not like you the same way you like them. But like, we obviously know that's not true. We obviously know that Bella is obsessed with Edward, which is why I think it's an even funnier moment. It's like, I love you. I know.
Do you think that there was maybe a mention that maybe they also they bonded over liking Star Wars and then we had to cut it out because of like IP stuff, and then she kept those in because that's something that liking Star Wars around that like is still a thing, even though it's like from the 80s. But like, Edward would have watched him. He was alive during the fucking 80s, so the 1880s even. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I feel like Stephanie would have thrown that in the outtakes.
No, that's true. That she would have mentioned that. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like she would have mentioned that.
Yeah.
Maybe even had one of the tracks in her playlist.
Maybe. But that's definitely a Star Wars nod. It can't like not be. Like it's such an iconic. It's such an iconic line. I feel like it is.
It could be a Mormon thing. I also have no idea.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that is. But yeah, that I thought that was very funny, and I'm very happy to get the other side of this meme now of the I love you, I know, but it's Edward Cullen and not. I thought it was like part of those memes where it would be like it's purposely putting the wrong it's like some Legend of Zelda quote, and then it shows like Link or whatever instead of Zelda. Like I thought it was like on purpose. Like that was like one of those memes. I just thought it was to make Star Wars people mad, but also now it's not. It's a legit quote inside this book.
Yup. So maybe that also makes them extra mad because it's canon.
Because it's canon. It's so good.
I do love every moment where Edward's just like, I cannot believe you're afraid of this thing. You going and putting yourself in the hands of like a torturous vampire, no problem. This little thing though, that's
too much.
A needle? Oh my god, how dare.
Yeah, not the claws and brutal strength of a superhuman / supernatural nightmare.
So many poor Edward.
Couldn't be me. So we find out in the hospital that mom came literally a couple I think she's been out for like a couple of days at this point, but Bella's mom's here. She's been sleeping at the hospital and shaking and making sure her girl's okay. And they have a little like mom-daughter talk about like, this boy's in love with you. She's like, do you like him? She's like, yeah. She like plays it off as a crush instead of like, yeah, we're dating, to like make sure that her mom isn't like totally on her back. But she's like, and then the mom trying to reason for her, but you hate Forks. And she's like, she's like, is it for that guy? I love that. I love that like moment of just like, because Bella's mom, while she is dating Phil, which by the way, Phil, congrats on getting signed to the Suns.
He did it.
He did it. He's in the A-Leagues, baby. But they're going to Florida. Not that the Suns are, I don't think they are a historically good baseball team from my minimal baseball knowledge. Yeah, I just love that like Bella's mom is like being like scrutinizing, and Bella knows that she can't get anything past her mom when it comes to like boys, because her mom was just like, I am not staying in Forks for my husband. What makes you think when I'm gonna she's her mom is like, even though like she dates a lot or whatever, or like all that, she still like scrutinizes like relationships and men. You know, that's my vibe.
Yeah.
She's like she's like one of those people that's like love to hate them.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Renee is that Renee has always been Bella's best friend.
Yeah.
Renee is Jessica.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think that's why it's so easy for Bella to talk to Jessica, because Jessica is Renee.
Yeah.
Except a lot less imposing. We also learn a lot about Renee from Edward and Midnight Sun in this scene also.
Because he's probably actively reading her mind.
Yeah, and we'll find out that Renee is very loud in more ways than one. And so she has always been Bella's best friend. In fact, in the same breath, or in the same thought, Bella says like she can only think of one other time that Renee has been, authoritatively parental, and that is when Bella was 8.
Yeah.
And I was like, Renee 8? That's almost 10 years ago, Renee. Renee, hello?
Yep.
And so I even wrote in my notes, it's just the how do you feel about him? I'm pretty crazy. And it's like, well, he seems very nice, and my goodness, he's incredibly good looking, but you're so young, Bella. And I wrote like, OMG, Renee doing mothering in this economy.
Right.
And immediately afterwards, I wrote down first time since Bella was 8 that she sounded like an authorial parental figure. And I was like, Jesus, Renee, minus any points I would have given you, and then an extra negative 20 for that one. Because Renee, please be a mother. And in that same vein, she goes off to have a planned call with Phil.
Yeah. Yep. And like Bella doesn't like. I think Bella should be a little bit more bothered, but Bella also doesn't mind, which I'm like, all right, fine. I mean, that's why you also moved to Forks, because you couldn't also deal with taking care of your mom. So,
yeah.
But yeah, then we get a lot of like the I love yous and all this stuff, and like him teasing her about her mom. But I think this is the first mention in this chapter before the epilogue of like, hey, why don't you turn me? Because I want to be with you forever. She's like, I will die eventually because I am human. And he's like, no, I can't do that to you. You got to be a human. Live out like, enjoy being human. Enjoy it. And she's like, but no, I love you so much. I want to be with you forever. I don't have forever as a human.
And it's just, and also the first, when, honestly, Edward talks about it all the time about leaving Bella.
Yeah.
Because she's better off without him, which to be, it's true. But like at this point, you have enthralled her. There's nothing, like, you have made a decision, Edward, and that is to stick around for Bella to be in love with you. You can't takesy backsies now.
Yep.
And like, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with Edward. And Bella needs to live a little bit more of life, and then she can be turned into a vampire.
Yup, I agree.
And it's like 100%. I'm on board with you there, Edward. I'm not on board in the fact that you don't want to turn her because you don't want to turn her into a monster. Because that then turns it into a less of a Bella thing and a more of a you reason.
Yeah.
This is a you problem, Edward, as to why you don't want to turn her. It's like, I have been battling with this for 80 years, and I still don't know if I deserve to be alive. And Bella's just like, don't say that. You deserve to be alive. Otherwise, I never would have met you. And so, also another thing, in one of these conversations, after they have the conversation about turning, because Bella's just like, that's what Alice saw, right? Alice saw me being a vampire, so you know that this is an inevitability. Edward's like, no. It's like, no. It's like, the future can change. We all know that. Changes can happen. And it's like, but I don't want them to happen. Anyways, eventually around the end of the, or eventually in the chapter, Bella's just like, you'll never catch me betting against Alice. And I was just like, Bella stands. This is for you, right there.
Right there.
Never catch me betting against Alice. Even the very last line in the chapter is just like,
mentioning
I'm
Alice.
not betting. Yeah, I won't. I'm not betting against Alice.
Yeah, I definitely like Edward. Like Edward's only good reason is that you should live a little bit more human life, because like I think teenager me would have been like, no, I agree, I want to be a vampire right now. But that's because like looking back at like you think you're like, everyone always says like high school's the prime time of your life, college is the prime time of your life. Like no, looking back at it now, being as old as I am, and I'm not like I'm 32, right? There's still a lot more life to live. But looking back on those years, man, so much shit gets better when you get older. Like there's bad and good. Like, oh no, I have to pay bills now. I have taxes. But also like I can do whatever I want. I can live a life. It'll be
And like not only would Bella live a life, Bella has a sugar daddy.
Yeah.
And they have so much money.
She has a sugar coven, please. Alice is really spoiling her. Let's be real. Sugar mommy.
Sugar coven. It's like, and like part of me when I was reading this, I'm like, is it because we talk about Rosalie being jealous of Bella and for her being human and all of this stuff. But we never talk. Actually, I don't know if we talk about them in the first book. It's something that'll come up if we haven't talked about it yet. But yeah,
sorry, I just read chat. Derek, Immortal Glucose Guardians.
Yup.
That's a really good one. Sorry, I totally distracted you from your train of thought.
No, you're good. It's like we always talk about Rosalie being jealous of Bella for being human, but is Edward jealous of?
I think
because
so.
like
I
so
think
much
so.
of it so much of this revolves around like human, having human experiences and being human. And when I was younger, I was like, oh, these are just all excuses. These are just excuses that you're looking for. It's like, oh, I'm not going to turn you until this happens. I'm not going to turn you until that happens. Because that's such a parent thing to do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, I'll get
Like
this for you once this happens.
raising the bar, pushing the finish line. Yeah, pushing the goalposts or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, and that's what I thought when I was younger. But now as I'm now rereading it, I'm like, I wonder if it's that or if it's more of a Edward wishes that he could experience these things, if not just for himself, but experience them with Bella as a human. He feels like he maybe isn't appreciating them as much. It's just, I don't know. It's very much that Edward doesn't live in the now. He lives very much in the past. But again, like I said ages ago, vampires, once you're turned, your entire body stops growing at that point. Yeah,
so he's like experiencing this again.
So in a way. Is perpetually having a 17, 18-year-old's mind. Like his brain will never become an adult. So
yeah.
And I get Bella. It's like, how do I say it? I don't want to say it's like trying to entrap him.
Yeah.
Because if she turns into a vampire, then suddenly, this is a forever thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Edward necessarily has a commitment issue.
Yeah.
But I think Bella views it as a commitment issue.
Yeah.
Because that's the vibe he gives off, right? The entire time it's like, I will stay here as long as you want me here.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not saying forever. I'm saying forever. You're not saying forever.
Yeah.
So like, where's the vibe here?
Yeah. I can also see it as like, maybe like, I know like Edward hasn't been in another relationship, but like from the understanding of like, divorce is a thing. Like, like, and Bella's parents have experienced that. So like, there is a line probably that he can see with his 80 years of experience that maybe that does happen if, and then like there's no more love there like that. So I can see it that way too, but I totally agree with like the idea that he wants to live as a teenager vicariously through human eyes in a human way instead of like the vampire way. Cause he's experienced the high school thing before. He's done the high school thing. Like that's,
100%.
Yeah. So like that part he's not experiencing. He's experiencing the human side of it. Cause they would always like, as we find out in the epilogue, they're still doing very old school ballroom dances at a prom. Can I just say, this is the most stylish fucking prom that I've ever read. And I know there's some high schools in the United States that go hard. Mm-hmm. We went medium at mine. So, like, I don't know.
Well, how many people graduated in your class? Like 12?
Okay, like 100. Like 100, okay? Which is probably about as many people are at the prom there. Their school is not much bigger than mine. Like, that's probably my prom. And like, okay, for what it's worth, it probably like we had like a junior prom and a senior prom, so it would be like freshmen, sophomores, and then junior seniors or whatever. And like you could go to each other's, but like they did that just so that you could be with the people your age or whatever. And I don't know. That might be some Catholic school shit, but got to leave room for the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean It's really nerve-wracking that you really had to, because, and believe, this is also the time when like Low was a song on the radio, gang. So like the fact that like nuns are hovering around you at this school dance and making no shenanigans happening is a little weird when you hear Lil Jon get low, and I'm like, oh my God. Looking back to the window, to the wall. Oh man, the way the DJ would have to scratch out the entire next line is so funny to me.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
I did not attend my prom, but I did graduate with over 1,000 people. So
that was my whole school in high school.
Graduated with 1,224, and
damn.
And so I had a lot of friends who went to prom, but our prom took place in a hotel, at a
Oh,
hotel.
like
In fact, I
Bella's
think
other
it was
one
a
did.
Hyatt. Yeah.
That's
In
so
fact, I
funny.
think it wasn't a Hyatt, and so it was downtown,
Yeah.
which is another reason I didn't want to go. But very big, very large. So whenever I read about again the dichotomy between we talked about this in our session 0 or
Yeah.
our our
Episode 0,
podcast
yeah.
episode 0, that I went to large school, so I
Uh-huh.
relate to Bella's original experience,
I went
and
to
you went to
small.
tiny school.
Yep. No,
So
but
now you
also
relate to that.
my prom was also in the gym. Like it was decorated
Yeah.
out and all of that. But yeah, it's I mean, I think there were we all like everyone would break out. You would go to there was like pre-prom festivities, like we'd go to our friends' houses and like do like picture sessions and meet up, and we did so we did get a party bus for hours from my friend's
Amazing.
house to the school, which is only and then back. Not that we were drinking, but because we could roll up to the school in a party bus. But it was also a double duty because literally the next day, in order to prevent Catholic school, in order to prevent kids from partying afterwards, we did our senior trip the day after, and we were going to Florida for Disney World. So we had to be on an early flight plane. So they were trying to avoid people partying late because they were like, "Oh, you got to be up early to get on the plane." Didn't stop kids from doing that. Let's be real. In fact, it didn't even stop them at the trip. That's a story for another time. I don't know if I can tell that one on the podcast. But I think I actually might have in episode 0. So maybe like go look back at that one. I might have told that story. But if not, I probably have. I've definitely told this story on stream. So catch me live. But I'm not gonna repeat it for the podcast. But the thing is the party bus was rented for like 12 hours or whatever. So then we all took the party bus to school to get us because then we would take another bus to the airport.
Yeah.
Together as a class. So it was very funny, very advantageous for us. It was very good. It was very, very good. But yeah. I guess I kind of skipped a little bit, but yeah, epilogue is prom, and Bella didn't know they were going to prom until the literal last second.
In fact, in the actual chapter, Edward's like, I can't believe it took you this long to figure it out. Before Bella figured it out.
Yeah.
Bella had not figured it out yet. In fact,
she like just barely figured. Like she was just like the wheels were turning in her head during while he was saying that.
yeah, it was so funny. I love how like we always portray Bella as being like this master manipulator and has all these great plans and all these things. But whenever anything comes with her, it's like when you don't know when someone is hitting on you or someone has a crush on you. That is Bella, but with every other aspect in her life. She never knows when anything is happening if she's not the one planning it. And maybe it comes from her just not experiencing anyone ever putting her first. Which, very sad. But maybe it comes from that. Although, what a nuanced take if it is from Stephenie Meyer. But it was so funny to me that she is getting all trussed up and all, beautified by Alice for an entire day.
Yep.
In this very expensive foreign made dress. And Bella's still like, I don't know what this is for.
Yeah.
It's possibly for.
Yeah.
And Edward's like, prom. And she's like, prom?
Well, we actually find out the way she finds out is that ever since she got back, her dad's been kind of like putting curfews and stuff on her because he's also Hawkeye's on Edward because he's, being protective dad. They do homework together. He's out of the door by 9, 10 or whatever. It's very cute. However, Edward gets a phone call from her dad and he goes, just put him on the line. And then he goes, hello, Tyler. Yeah, she's unavailable tonight and all other nights for the rest of forever. So you can just stop, and hangs up. And she goes in her head, Tyler. Oh, and that's when she realizes that Tyler is why is Tyler at my house? Why have we dressed up? Oh my freaking God, he's asking me to prom. And therefore, he's taking me to prom. That is that is how it was. He didn't even say it. She figured it out that way. Which is so funny.
I wrote in my notes about Tyler. It's like, fucking Tyler, bro. He really committed. No one can ever say that boy cannot commit, because damn, what a guy.
Yeah.
The fact that Tyler, first of all, thank you, Stephanie Meyer, for remembering this. Second of all, I am so happy that Edward was so delighted to turn down Tyler.
Yep.
I was like, because he's been wanting this for so long.
Yeah.
Since he held up the line
Yeah.
at school, he's wanted this moment to happen.
For sure.
So good for him.
Yeah. And then we get to prom, and all of the vampires are looking gorge. PB sent me the outtakes chapter or whatever for this, and we get actually a whole montage, not even a montage, we get like a full day explanation of like the shopping that Alice and Bella and Rosalie, or I think shopping was just Alice and Bella, but they all went shopping for all the stuff, spent so much money, got like one designer shoe because she's in a cast still. This is not that much after the events, it's just a little bit of a fast forward, but she's still in a cast because her leg was broken real bad. She got a little mani-pedi even for her little toesies sticking out the cast, which I don't think it'll just be the toesies because usually you put a sock on anyway or something, or like there's like a little cover anyway. Yeah, there's a whole thing where they're getting ready together, doing the hair. Rosalie is weirdly cooperative because I think she's just appeasing Alice because she likes Alice, which again, for the Team Alice people, do read this chapter. It is a treasure trove for Team Alice. Let me say. Read the outtake for the epilogue.
I, in fact, did not realize. I was shocked how short the Alice mention was in the book. Because I don't remember reading this as an outtake, but I definitely remember this being a longer scene. In fact, so one of my deep dark secrets is when I was in high school, back when there were groups. I did in fact join a couple of trivia Facebook groups.
Nice.
And about Twilight. And so we would just ask each other questions until one of us didn't know the answer, essentially. Which, looking back was honestly just a how fast can you research something? Can you look something up in your books? But I was like head to head with this other person, answering all these obscure questions and asking all these obscure questions and getting answers back. And then the person I was going against asked me, what was the color of Bella's dress that she went to prom with? And I did not know the answer because I never pay attention to close things in books. It is in one ear, out the other. I just need to know what shape I'm looking at. And so I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find it fast enough. Maybe because I was looking for an outtake chapter instead of instead of the one in the book. And so I lost. And so that has stuck with me all this time since 2007, 8. That her dress was blue. Because I was asked what. I think she asked me what exact color it was, and in my mind, it was like a periwinkle blue.
Yeah,
but it was actually a deep blue. So, just a small little tidbit there. I will always remember the color of Bella's dress because of this one moment in time in 2007 or 8.
Yeah, wow, on Facebook, wow. In Facebook group trivia. Another big thing that happens in the epilogue is that Jacob comes to the prom.
All big and tall.
Yup.
I think 6'2".
6'2", something like that. We find out Billy has paid him to come in order to deliver a message to Bella, which is like, hey, break up with Edward. We'll be watching. You better do it. It's dangerous. And she's like, that's not going to happen, Jacob. Jacob also is kind of like subtly hinting, like, I kind of like you and have a crush on you and I wish I could have gone to prom with you, but you already taken, so I'm not going to say anything else. Okay, bye. That's kind of like what happens, right?
Yeah.
And Edward's also been like dancing her. I want to say dancing with her because like her feet are on his feet and like he's been 100% leading everything. But like they're doing the awkward teenager. Yes. Yes, this is what we're doing now. Yes.
It's like they say like Jacob has like grown, so he's lanky and like
Yeah.
awkward with his
He had
limbs,
his
and
growth
she
spurt.
cannot
Yeah.
move.
Yup.
Yeah,
So
but
awkward.
and so my favorite thing is just like we get a more establishment that like Jacob likes to build cars. If you forgot,
No, by
you
the way,
remember
yeah.
that he likes doing this because he was gonna get a new carburetor or something for
Yeah.
a car he was working on. And Bella's just like, and also we get to see the camaraderie and the like friendship
Yeah.
between Jacob and Bella,
Yeah.
because Bella like is like super like no hard feelings, lighthearted around Jacob, of just like
Yeah.
it's like just tell me what you have to say, Jacob. It's fine. I'm not
We're
gonna put this
friends.
against
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's like we're friends. Like
It's your
I
dad's
enjoy your
message.
company.
It's not your message. I get it. Like,
Yeah, it's like, and in a way that she's not with any other character in this book.
yep.
She always feels like she has another motive when she's talking to anyone else in this series.
Yep.
Whenever she talks to Jessica, there's always a reason, or she immediately like just dissociates. Same thing with Ashley, and also just like even with Alice and
Yeah.
and even Edward, it's always just like there's another thing going on in this conversation.
Yeah.
Jacob is the one person she ever has
He's
a
very
conversation
straight with,
in
yeah.
this book.
Yeah.
That is just very straightforward. Even when she was, aside from the manipulation scene right at the
Yeah.
beginning, when she's just like,
She's trying to get to know him and then wants information. Like, she had a very clear want and then she did it and she got what she needed. But here it's just kind of like, whatever. You're going to tell me what you're going to tell me. Yeah.
It's like, and so I thought that was very interesting. And I think this is why I can see where people began like being like Team Jacob.
Yeah.
Because Bella has never had like this external pressure when it comes to Jacob, at least not in this book. And so that was very interesting. And fucking Billy just being like, we'll be watching as a
All right,
precursor
guy.
to New Moon.
Chill. But also, I get it.
Honestly, it's like, if reading it back now, I'm just like, I get it. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm on your side, Billy. I get it. Like, literally everything you said would happen did happen, except like we get to see the motivations of just like Edward doesn't want any of this to happen.
Yeah.
As opposed to Billy, who might just think it's a more nefarious in purpose, but
Yeah.
whatever.
That's about it. I mean, they've had a bad rap with vampires, so but yeah, so we get that message. Jacob kind of tail between his legs, not to make the dog analogy, but
wow.
sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. I mean, I know he's a werewolf or shifter, technically, whatever. But he leaves, and then Edward and Bella go off to a quiet during Twilight. I'm like, 2 times in one book. We're spoiled. But they go off to like some area where they can be alone and have a chat. And Edward is trying to prod her, like, what do you think this is for? This wasn't for prom. And she's all like, I thought we were good. You might like have decided to turn me and it was going to be, a black tie affair. And I'm like, girl, you knew how much it hurt. Why would that be a black tie affair? Damn.
I was like, literally. I think this also shows that Bella's too young for this to happen.
Exactly.
Because Bella thought that this would be like a thing that they would this is a 3-day affair. And she's just like, oh yeah, I'm totally 100% willing to have this happen right now with no like precursor. Because like, not only is it a 3-day affair of her like writhing in agony.
Yeah.
But is also, she is going to be a newborn vampire once she becomes a vampire.
She needs to om-nom something.
And everything we've read about newborns in this book so far is that newborns don't know their strength and are also very hungry when they first are born. And so it's like, Bella, maybe we need to have a little bit more like forethought as to what happens when you turn. Because right now I don't think you have that.
Yeah. And also, you're not good at sports. What makes you think you're going to be good at hunting like a vegetarian? Let's be real.
Exactly.
Sure, you might gain super strength and super speed. but that doesn't equate to experience. You could barely know baseball terms. What makes you think you know how to go after a lion, tiger, or bear? Damn, girl.
And then after that, Bella asks Edward why. Like, why did you bring me to prom?
Mhm.
And he was like, I brought you to prom because I don't want you to miss anything. I don't want my presence to take anything away from you if I can help it. I want you to be human. I want your life to continue as if it would have if I died in 1918, like I should have. And first of all, you're so dramatic for what, Edward? Like,
I
get
know.
chill.
But also,
And I'm
it's like,
just
it's
like-
a little romantic. Okay.
And it's like, I get it, but like, Edward does such a terrible job of explaining to Bella.
Yeah.
Because I guess Edward doesn't know how to like say things without sounding like a parent almost.
Yeah. And he doesn't want
Um,
that relationship with her, so I
Yeah,
kind of get
exactly.
that.
But he still has that relationship just without having
Yeah.
talking about it.
Purely experience. Like, he is the elder by many years.
Yeah, it's like you could just tell Bella like, hey, like I would even acquiesce Bella and be like, maybe in your like maybe like mid college, or we'll finish college and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I want you to be a fully formed adult before you turn.
Yeah.
Because there's no going back,
Yeah.
And it's like Edward has been and a lot of the issue I think here is the fact that like Edward looks 17, right?
Yeah.
Like cuz he died 17.
Yeah.
And so but like 17 you can dress up certain ways and look older than 17. You
Yeah,
can look
for
in your
sure.
early 20s, mid 20s.
Yeah. I mean, I still get carded. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So like Bella, so long as she takes care of herself, she'll look fine.
yeah.
In her early 20s, she could definitely look like a teenager.
Yeah, she's definitely
Um,
someone who keeps a routine or can keep a routine. Like, she's got it's gonna be fine, Bella, and all
Exactly.
that.
And with
so,
Alice there, you can
oh
definitely
yeah,
look younger.
beauty queens.
And so like I feel like Edward could just acquiesce her in that way, but again, Edward's reasoning for this is just I don't want you to become a monster. So for Edward, it's a never thing.
Yeah,
Edward never. How Edward thinks he's gonna get away with this for the next 60 to 80 years. If he plans to stay with Bella this entire time, until she dies of old age.
yeah,
I'm just like, I don't know how you're gonna stop Bella from turning into a vampire.
yeah.
Like,
think-
I'm sure Alice has like a, if we're both 40 and we're not married, it has one of those. It's like if you turn 30 and you're not a vampire, I'll turn you.
Yeah,
Like, I'll do it.
That'll be great. I think a little bit of this is like an interesting exercise, and like also like I think like at a certain point, I mean Bella's a teenager, and so like still learning some societal stuff, but like it's also kind of like Edward doesn't want to turn you right now. Like, respect those boundaries, regardless of the reasoning, right? Like, he's saying no, not right now, and he's willing to. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's not a completely two-way street. It's an asymmetrical two-way street where, like, obviously Edward has more power and cards here, and obviously he's giving both. Like, one good reason is live your human life, but the other bad reason is like you're a I don't want you to be a monster. But I can also. It's also just kind of like Bella, chill.
Well,
But
the other
again,
thing
teenager
is that,
me also, I get it because she's a teenager.
yeah, and the other thing is that Edward is always also overstepping boundaries here because Bella is like, okay, then if you don't want to do it or can't do it, I'll have someone else in the coven do it. Like Carlisle can turn me, Alice
Yeah.
can turn me, and Edward immediately is like, no
Yeah.
one is gonna do it. And I'm just like,
That's
yo, chill,
possessive,
Edward.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like she can, if
Do what
she
she
wants to become a
wants.
vampire, she can become a vampire. Although I 100% again agree, she should wait until she's older.
Yep.
Because just live life a little bit longer. High school is not all that, and so, but also Mormon thing. People get married very early on,
Yeah,
so
sure.
I get it. Even though it's mentioned in the book that like Bella, you're a little young.
Yeah.
to be like all this lovey-dovey I love you stuff, but you know, it is what it is. And so it's just very interesting to see like that dichotomy even in the book itself.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you're too young, but also
I mean, that could also just be
uh
her mom being like, "Oh, I regretted getting married early," right? Because it's her mom that says that, that you're too young to be. I mean, the dad's also kind of like that, but that's also just dad. Oh, like I get it from like a dad or a parental that parental perspective, but her mom also saying it like you're too young is probably like she. I mean, she obviously regretted, like wanting to settle down with Charlie and Forks, and she was young when she did that. So it could just be a little bit of passing of some bit of knowledge and being like, don't do it too early, girl. Me, I'm happy with Phil now, another 20 years later, because I know myself.
Yep.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
That's where I think we're at with that.
I just wish someone would be straight with Bella.
I know.
Like have this conversation and not like approach it aggressively, combatively. You know,
Yeah.
it's like approach this conversation as like, hey, we can bring this up. I'm not terribly opposed. The thing is that Edward is terribly opposed to it always.
Yeah.
If Edward weren't opposed to it always, I think that things would go differently for Bella.
Yeah.
Because I think Bella is not against the idea of waiting until she's older. I think she's against the idea
Of
of
it never happening.
if we don't do this, you're going to leave me. Like, because that is what has happened with being enthralled like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
she always wants to be around Edward. She feels when Edward is coming. She feels when he is gone. And the idea of him being gone forever, or being away from Edward in any way, even if it's in death, is agonizing for her.
Yeah.
So, that is another reason of why she's so attached to this idea. But if Edward just said like Edward lies so much. Edward lies so much. Even in this last chapter, he lies so much. I'm just like, just say you will. You don't
Yeah.
have to mean it. Just say you will, because that will save everyone in this series so much trouble. If you just say you will, and then you just don't keep your promise.
Yeah.
Like, what's she gonna do? Be mad at you? Like, fam.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's
it's such like it's such a sticky point for me. It's one of the reasons I really don't like Edward. Edward is one of my least favorite characters in this series because of he stays on this one note the entire time.
yeah.
He's like, no, your soul.
Your soul. That is kind of actually where we end the book, and like they have they kiss and stuff. And that's just kind of, and then it's a cute little ending, quiet moment during prom. And that's the end of Twilight Book 1. A nice little cap to introduction to characters, a short little intense action plot, and a little conundrum at the end that obviously leads into the rest of the series of Bella wants to be a vampire.
let Bella be a vampire 2021.
Yeah.
2022.
I think I enjoyed it. Like I don't think it's gonna affect me the same way. I'm not gonna be it's a fun little read. It's cute. I'm more interested in the rest of the series though. I think the book, for the reasons that it is an introduction book, the first book, just is more like, here's the players, here's some setup, and here's like the lore, and then here's our moral quandary of humanity. Yeah. Like, that's cool. So like, I'm interested. I'm not saying it's a bad book. I have some gripes. Y'all have heard them over the past episodes, but I can't hold everything against, like, it is still YA, young adult novel, so it's like there's a line. So yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. So I did not hate it to not do New Moon. So you know,
it's like I said, Twilight is not the book. Is not up there in my favorites. In my mind, it is Breaking Dawn, New Moon, Eclipse, Twilight, Eclipse. Those are like the order of my favorites, the least favorites. Although, again, I don't remember Eclipse very well, which is why it's down there. and I've not read Midnight Sun. So,
Hmm.
but New Moon and Breaking Dawn are much more interesting for me than Eclipse and Twilight are. And I think it has a lot to do with the people it focuses on.
Yeah.
And so like Twilight's fine. I like it, but it's an introduction.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you read once and then you just move on with
Yeah.
your life. It gets you hooked, and that's what it's supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm excited to get into New Moon. New Moon's gonna
Yeah.
be very exciting. Um to mention New Moon, oh, I don't have the list of the chapters. Oh, yes, I do. I know them because I came up with them.
Yeah.
Um, so in New Moon is going to be we're reading chapters 1 through 3, and then chapter 4 up to
It's the line is even for me. For what it's worth, I
even
put the
for
whole
me.
I put the whole schedule up in the Discord, exclamation point Discord, but I also put in the YouTube description for those watching that here. So if you want to read along in the next part of the series, which is starting literally next week, we're just gonna keep this train
Yeah.
rolling.
And yes, and it is that weird of a cutoff because it is I didn't realize it happened this early in the damn book. But it has one of my favorite segments I've ever seen in a book before.
mm,
To symbolize what is happening. I'm very curious what your experience is going to be on the Kindle.
mm,
Because it is very impactful in the book to do the act of,
mm.
reading it. And so I'm very interested in how it's going to translate to Kindle
Oh
as
yeah.
opposed to it. And so it might look like a mistake, it's not. So just like scroll through it slowly as if you were turning
Mm,
pages.
yeah.
And that's why it's a handful of sentences in chapter 4. It is literally like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 sentences in 4. But I didn't want to end on 3 because this thing happens, but I didn't want to start on 4 because that is a whole new section of the book. And so that's why it's so weird for the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't do 1 and 2 because that's too short. And I
Yeah.
couldn't do 1 and 4 because that's going too far. So it's just chapters 1, 2, 3, 4 in a little bit. And as a general trigger warning for the entire and content warning for the entirety of New Moon, I tried to go through and find like the pages that were going to be the worst, and I'll still bring them up as they come up.
Yeah.
If it is content you are uncomfortable with or unable to like deal with at this time. General warning for if you are unable to handle content that is very that deals a lot with depression and a lot of things that have to do with I forget what the word is. Hold on, I have it written down somewhere. It
Mm,
is if you have issues with where the hell do I have it written down? Suicidal ideation
mm.
and anything like that, I highly implore you to not read the book.
Don't
Um,
skip New Moon. Just listen to us summarize it or read Spark Notes.
yeah, it is. There's not really any. That is like the theme of the book essentially. So,
Hmm.
make sure to take care of yourself when you're reading through it, and some of the more triggering scenes, I'll try to call out before we read them
Hmm.
or before we talk about them in the thing.
Yeah.
And we won't like go hard into it when we're talking about it. So,
Yeah. At the very least, we're just
um,
gonna pull the themes out or like stuff like we usually do here. We don't use like we usually skirt around like the really icky stuff. Mostly
mhm.
because like we don't want to we can't if the book there's like we can't cover everything all at once. So but we're gonna do our
Yeah,
best. We're gonna do our best because we care for y'all's safety as listeners.
yeah. So, make sure to take care of yourself like that. And if you are, facing some issues, make sure to talk to somebody. There are
Mm-hmm.
plenty of lines to call out there, and I learned that you can text and like
Yes.
chat now online with people if calling is too much of an anxiety for you. So, make sure to reach out to any and all resources.
for podcasting people that are listening without seeing, I raised my hand for people who have too much anxiety to talk on the phone.
Oh yeah, me
yeah,
same.
yeah. I only do it when I really have to. And even then, a mask goes on. A very confident Caroline being able to talk on the phone, which is a very different person sometimes. Honestly, a little bit of her comes out on podcast stuff, but you know. So yeah, that is just our little heads up as we move into that. Yeah, and also as for the Twilight 1 movie watch party, join the Discord, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, join us on Knilly Online Discord to discuss when the movie time is, or the episode, or ask questions before or after the show. !Discord if you're watching this live on Twitch, or find the link in the description if you're catching us on YouTube. This recording and past episodes can be found on our YouTube channel, Knilly and PB Podcast. New episodes go up on the Friday after recording. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. We'll be coming to more podcasting platforms very soon, probably after this one goes up. I'll try and put all of book 1 on like a Spotify or a Podbean or something. I just have to extract all the MP4s anyway. Anything else you wanted to? Oh yeah, and be sure to like follow me and PB on the internet. All of our socials are in descriptions, or if you're in my chat, there's commands for everything. So be sure to do that. Any last things you wanted to cover, PB?
Just when you start reading New Moon, and you reach the end of chapter 3, just take some time to appreciate the literary moment. I don't know if other books have done it since, but it was a little revolutionary when it happened. So
cool. I'm excited actually, because I'm a sucker for this stuff. As we saw when I'm talking about a motherfucking eucalyptus tree. Now that I learned that eucalyptus leaves are poisonous to humans. Wow. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out and listening to us, and we'll see you on the internet, everyone. Bye. Of the book. But before we get started, I know like the last episode and in my various Twitch streams, we've been talking about the watch party. It'll probably just be this Sunday. If you got nothing... Oh, I realize I can't do this Sunday. We'll talk about it later. You'll get an announcement. I'm a liar. You know what? I almost just want to redo this because
we can restart.
We're gonna restart. I just realized I'm doing a game it's a game in the evening, so it'd have to be a morning watch party, but we'll have to talk about it. Fuck me.
Damn. Oh my god, hold on. Instant realization really got me there.
Yup.
Really good.
Damn, man.
Really
This
good.
is why I need